Hey everybody, welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us. So today, this conversation is hashtag take a risk, and definitely want to give a huge shout out to Cat Barrett. Hopefully she'll be joining us in progress, but in the meantime, we're going to kick things off with some introductions. So we're going to start first with Rochelle.
Okay, it helps if I unmute myself. That works. So my name is Rochelle. I am a foreign language teacher and STEAM teacher from Pittsburgh, where I've been teaching for about 22 years. Just enjoy being part of different conversations in this group. And the topic tonight, I'm really excited to just be on the panel to talk about. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are so happy to have you back. So thank you so much for being here, Rochelle. All right, up next we have Jernay. Welcome, Jernay. Great to have you here. So if you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jernay Irwin, an educator for over 16 years and currently one of the Educator Innovation Leads on Team Flipgrid. And so I am excited to be here to talk about risk.
All right, awesome. We are so excited to have you here. So thank you for joining us, Jernay. Great to see you as always. All right, next up we have Desiree. Welcome back, Desiree. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Desiree Alexander. I am the founder CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and I am the regional director of North Louisiana for a nonprofit called APEL.
Awesome. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to EduMatch. Great to see you as always. And last and certainly not least, we have Doc Amy. Welcome back to Tweet and Talk. Please introduce yourself.
Hey there, so I'm Dr. Amy Hager. I am a school teacher in Maryland as well as an edu business coach. So I work with fellow educators that are looking to get into entrepreneurship.
All right, excellent. So great to see you once again. So we have an all-star panel here. So definitely wanted to once again give a huge shout out to Catherine Barrett. So all of these questions are hers. So hopefully she'll be able to join us in progress. But the very first question is, have you ever been afraid to try something new because of the fear to fail? And if so, what was it? And I know that we've all probably had these experiences. Rochelle, how about you?
It's like a question of like, which one do I talk about? Because there have been so many. But I will go with like most recently, something that I started to do with just sketchnoting. And I see so many people doing that. And in my 8th grade course I teach for in STEAM, we do a lot of different topics. And so one thing that I really wanted to try with them last year even was sketchnoting. I have so many students that are like visual thinkers, visual learners. And you know, there's tons of resources out there that I could use, but I really wanted to do it myself. And I do not draw well. I was told in 9th grade that I didn't really have skills to do well in my art class. So from that point on, I never really tried. And nothing like standing up in front of the room and just like going with it. And I mean, it worked out really, really well. So I just was afraid because I didn't really think I had the ability to draw well enough to be up there as the teacher in front of the students. But I think it was like the favorite part of my day the last couple of weeks, because being able to stand up there and show them the image I was going to draw. And I would say like, oh, you know what? I'm not even trying this because there's no way. And they would totally like say, oh, you can do it. Just go ahead. And they would joke because I'd start to draw a face. They're like, what kind of an animal is that? I was like, it's a person. I'm trying. But I think that really helped with a lot of the students, because so many of them said, no, I can't do it. I said, look, if I can stand up here and do it, you can too. So I think we have to do that. But that is the most recent thing that I can share with like, oh yeah, and that was a 2-year probably actually struggle.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. The struggle is real when it comes to drawing. So totally feel you, but I'm so glad that you gave it a shot and that you're thriving at it. So that is fantastic. All right, so Jernay, how about you?
Yeah, so I think with anything, it comes with that little sense of fear of failure, whether it is starting something brand new. So for example, I try my best to communicate information to other educators to best help them, but I feel like I am my worst critic when it comes to those types of things. So I don't know if it's really a sense of failure in a sense, but not really meeting the expectations that I have for myself for other people. And I think with risk taking, you are getting yourself out of the comfort zone. We talk a lot in education about how to really stretch, your brain, stretch yourself, do something different than what you're used to. And I think for many people, that comfort zone just makes you stagnant. It's that comfortable space, it's that safe space, but you never really see the difference that you can make if you never get it, outside of that next zone. So whether it's, workout plans, like we were just talking while we were off air, or blogs that I'm currently working on, or I'm even working on a dissertation right now. And so every little aspect of anything that I do, I think there is that little sense of fear, but that fear is really the fear of, not really fear, but I guess it's that zone in which you're stretching yourself, which is a little bit uncomfortable. You're being challenged to think outside the box and do something different, but the rewards are so great. And I think, once you have that success, it makes taking that next step for whatever else it is a little easier to go along. So yeah, it's all about that zone.
Love that. Love that. And that reminds me of a quote that I read one time, that life starts outside of your comfort zone. So definitely agree with everything that you said. All right, let's go next to Desiree.
I think with me, sometimes it's the fear of the unknown and the fear of not, I know I'm a workaholic. I know I will work through whatever, but just the fear of not knowing what can come next. And I'm very anal. I'm very, everything has a place, everything has a time. So to not know what's coming next, I think is very fearful. And a couple of things that I've recently done that has done that is leaving the school district, not having that, even though, you used to say, well, teaching is a profession is very secure. And I've been in situations where that was just not true. I've been through reductions in force and people are losing their jobs. So it's not that, but just I've been in the school district for so long, and starting my own company and working for a nonprofit was very fearful. It's just like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know, if I'm going to regret this decision. So just the fear of the unknown. And I think I also have, and I don't know if this is weird, because I'm okay with being weird, but it's almost a fear of success too. It's a fear of, like Janae was saying, I'm doing my dissertation as well. And it's just like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is almost scary as well. So I think it's a weird thought, but I think fear comes in many different layers and many different aspects. But for me personally, those are a couple of things that I've done in my life recently, dealing with education, that were fearful for me.
Yeah, and those are some big leaps. Those are some big leaps. I love what you said about the fear of success. Like that is definitely real. That is real talk right there. All right, cool. Doc Amy, how about you?
Okay, I'm actually glad I went last because I needed to hear all of this. So I finished my doctorate. I did all my stuff back in August, and it took me way longer than it should have. And I did the same thing. I was hesitant because I was fearful of what was going to happen next. And I think it's interesting that we're in this circle right here, because people would say, oh, well, when you're a doctor, what are you going to do? And I thought, I don't know, because I didn't want to teach college and I didn't want it to go into admin. I didn't like any of that. It was too much bureaucratic politics. And I didn't think that I can make an impact because I was going to have to play games and do their dances. And so getting into entrepreneurship where, I mentor teachers and I write programs and I go speak at conferences. And so like that was scary for me because I didn't know the outcomes. So I think a couple people over said talking about like not knowing the result and being a control freak. And so a lot of times as perfectionists, we avoid great things because we're not sure of the outcome. And spiritual affiliations aside, fear is not of God. Like that is not something that we need to have in our life. And there's a difference between having common sense and making a good decision and being fearful. And when you really sit down and think, okay, well, why am I hesitant about it? Is it because it's going to hurt me or harm me or do damage to my career? If the answer is no, it's because we're fearful, we're anxious, and we need to push past it. And it's difficult and it's challenging. I had to have the awakening that my bare minimum was actually like, I was doing really well with just my bare minimum effort. Like I finished my doctorate and people were like, oh, good job. And I'm like, I really just had the time to sit down and do it. Like it really wasn't hard work for me. So what I realized is I wasn't trying. Like I've been disguising my minimal effort as my best effort. Like I've been fooling people thinking I'm doing this great thing, but I'm not even trying. So taking that risk and saying, you know, I'm not just a one-trick pony. I can come up with more programs. I can do more than what maybe, you know, public school has made me believe that I can do, of just high test scores. I'm more than a bulletin board. I can do more than put grades in a grade book. I can do more than that. And we don't always get the opportunity as teachers, or even just in formal public education. So to kind of be able to venture out, it's scary, but it, like, once you get past that fear, it's so exciting.
Yeah, so that fear of the unknown after success was one thing that you said that I really latched on to. Like, what comes next? You know, like sometimes we get used to seeing ourselves in a certain role. Like I really identified, like you were saying, with that role of student. I'm just like, okay, when I'm done being a student, then what do I have next? So yes, absolutely. Okay, real talk. So great. So let's move on to the next question via Cat. So has the fear of losing someone or something hindered you in risk taking? And if so, please share such an experience. So does anyone have a story like that where they were afraid of losing someone or something?
Yeah, I definitely think that that's always a part of it as well. One story deals with my current job, actually. So prior to working for Flipgrid, I was working with the Alabama State Department of Education as an instructional technology specialist, going into 12 different school districts, providing professional development. And I absolutely loved what I did. And of course, with being an educator and being under the state, when it comes to retirement and everything else, that's kind of like your security blanket. And then when I was offered the awesome opportunity to work for Flipgrid at the time was a startup. So there was a lot of uncertainty when it comes to a startup. It's here today. It could be gone tomorrow. It could take off. You just never know. And that was one thing that my awesome boss told me, like, hey, this is a risk. Like, are you willing to take it? And I think it just knowing the passion that I had, and it aligned very well what was happening with Flipgrid, it made me a little bit more comfortable in taking that risk, that no matter what, I know I'm going to be doing great work that's aligned with my purpose in life. So even though there's a lot of uncertainty with it, I still felt like I would be fulfilled in any way. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. So yeah, that definitely was something that could have hindered, but it did not.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I love how you brought your purpose into it, like how the decisions you make align with your purpose. And that is just super important. And wonderful, wonderful. All right, so who's next?
Okay, well, I'll go next. This has happened, I think, over and over in my life, with being fearful of what either risk-taking or success would do to either those around me or things that are already set in my life. So a big thing that Jordan said was retirement. All that kind of stuff. You're getting out of the retirement system and not really knowing if that's a good decision. And when you're in a school district, a lot of things are already set for you. So not knowing how to like do those things for yourself, like in the school district, I had a 403B, and I just went with the one that the school district had. And then when you're by yourself, it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? So just a lot of those little things, this fear of making a decision that will affect the rest of your life. that little thing. So just, fear of making decisions now. And, I'm not a young puppy, like in my 20s, that can just make decisions and be like, oh, I got time. So just making those kind of decisions, it's just a fear of wrecking your future, and a fear of, maybe even losing people. I was told when I was younger, and I don't think the person meant I don't think she meant it the way it came out. But, I was told when I was younger that you know, getting your dissertation and kind of, getting your PhD and kind of doing those things like that will ensure that you will be alone for the rest of your life. And I was like, thanks. Thank you so much. So it's just like stuff like that, that, you know, yeah, I don't know how, I think she meant it as advice to help me out, but it didn't. So just, you know, just stuff like that makes you think like, okay, well, am I doing something that's going to, you know, wreck my future, wreck the rest of my life? And I think that is something that I was fearful of as I'm making decisions.
Wow. Yeah, I hear you on that. And I'm glad that you're not listening to that piece of bogus advice, because that is definitely not true. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. All right, Rochelle, how about you?
Well, listening to them talk, it makes me think of, I mean, I'm a classroom teacher, and I do have some friends who, they often ask me, like, why are you still in the classroom? Because, like, I went to law school, which was a huge risk at the time, years ago, but having other options. And I know I have some friends who have decided to kind of go out on their own. And it is scary because you don't really know how it's going to be. And for me, I mean, I love what I do. I love being with the students. And my fear, I guess, kind of comes up like, okay, what if I did leave the classroom? You know, what would that mean for them? How would that impact me, or how would that impact those around me? And also my family too, you know, being like doing something like that where you are away from home, there's a lot of considerations it takes. You kind of have to really weigh. It's tough being an adult sometimes because you have to go and weigh in those tough decisions sometimes. And there is that fear of like losing those connections. I guess the relationships that you spent all that time forming comes at a cost, but then it's like you have to think, what is going to change, or what's going to be, you know, a new benefit that it might come into your life that may not be easy at first, but in the long run, you know, those are things that are hard to kind of predict. So it's really just kind of jumping in like blindly sometimes and hoping for the best. But then on the other side is like, even if you do that, you know that you have other options available to you. So I don't know that it's always like a all or nothing. But yeah, I just thinking about some friends who've just gone and said, you know what, I'm going to try this. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, okay, I'm going to figure something else. So sometimes I think that's just what you have to do. Yeah.
Awesome perspective there, and definitely weighing, you know, like making good calculated risk, calculated in the best sense of the term. But I love what you said about, you know, sometimes when it's right, it's just right, and you got to go for it. So absolutely. All right, Amy, how about you?
All right, so I just want to piggyback off the last two comments. I can't think of where I read this quote, but it was talking about how you need to have people in your life that are out of your league. And so just this idea of like what Rachel was saying, that like you're going to lose people. And as you kind of move into that space, like you need people like me as, you know, a business coach, as, you know, an educator, entrepreneur. Like I need somebody who's already got $1 billion education, like that are already in that next headspace of where I want to go, so they can kind of pull me with. But I also need to be looking back and pulling other people up as well. And what Desiree was saying about like, you know, giving up relationships, like that being it. Like I have learned that I just need a running partner. Like I was like, as long as I got somebody to keep up with me, like it's not about like, oh, I'm going to miss out. No, like that I dodged a bullet. Like, you want people that are going to push you and get you to where you want to be and come along with you. That is, and I can say this because it's all women here, but like, you know, if you're with a man, like it's not about making him feel more macho. Like he should be supporting us, and we run together and go. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely like you kind of switch up the circle you're with. But another quote, I can't think of who said it, but you're the 5 people you hang out with. So that's going to change as you move into different headspaces and different like areas of your career. Like that's going to happen. So again, once you get past that like anxious and that fear piece, like it's so much better on the other side. So get excited.
Absolutely, definitely. In terms of just embracing it, and absolutely the risk-taking mentality. So we have Cat, who is here on panel with us. Hey, Cat, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys? Sorry jumping in late.
Oh, no, it's all good. We are so glad to have you. So if you could please introduce yourself, then that would be great.
Okay, my name is Cat Barrett. I'm Reader's Lead PD on Twitter, and I'm out of Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm now teaching English Second Language Learners English at Trevor Brown High School.
All right, fantastic. That is awesome. So you are here just in time. We are on question 4. No one's answered yet, but the question 4 says, for something to succeed, you often need to be willing to take a risk. So when you plan a lesson, how do you take this into account? So if you want to go ahead and take over from the moderating, then that would be awesome.
All right. So basically, when we're taking those risks in our lesson design, what do we take into account or consideration? I know I look at my grouping, for instance. I know where my students are and who I can move into differentiated groups. And I'm thinking out when I plan that lesson, what materials do I need? Who do I need to move for behaviors? Anybody else jumping in?
Yeah, I can jump in. I'm out of the classroom, but one thing that I always thought about while in the classroom and also working with teachers in professional development is this idea of success in the classroom, that students also need to know that success is just not going to come. You're going to have times where you have to be critical and receive the criticism. You will have times that you will have doubts, especially like when I did writer's workshop, a lot of students were doubtful of how their writing would be perceived by other people. And that persistence is a part of that as well. And so success, although when people seek success, they don't see everything else that comes along with success. So letting students know that that is a huge part of learning is, I think, very comforting. And I think I see more teachers doing that now than when I was in school. Like, I felt like I needed to be perfect 100% of the time. And that wasn't reality. And so, when you hear people who are very successful, they really talk about those moments of failure that really led them to the success. So my advice for educators, when you are planning lessons, think about ways that you can build in time for students to be persistent in what they are doing. Give them time to reflect on maybe what didn't work so well and what did they learn from that process. And so I think those are those moments that will get students more comfortable in taking risks, so that they can be great. They can think back and know that they are great because they chose to take those risks and they achieved the success that they were looking for.
I'll jump in. I'm also no longer in the classroom, but one of the things that I can remember, one of the lessons that I took a risk on was a poetry lesson, and I taught 6th and 8th grade English, and I really wanted to teach my students about the types of poetry, and it was in the curriculum, and I set up this like amazing 6-week poetry lesson when we were going to do all types of poetry and blah, 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 blah. And, the students created their poetry portfolio. I mean, we were on it. And I started teaching the first lesson, and I turned to my students and said, "Are y'all as bored as I am?" And they're like, "Yeah." And we realized it was just a huge failure. It just didn't do what I thought it was going to do. And it was just boring, and it was pretty pointless. And, I had to admit to myself that it was a failure, and I got the students involved and just to tell me that it was a failure. And we had to start over, with, how we were going to teach it. And we kind of came together as a little family, and came up with what was the best way to teach them. And I think making the students part of that planning process was really powerful for them. And it was powerful for me as a teacher because, I had them involved in other aspects, but not in the planning of a lesson and how should this be taught to you? You're the ones that you're learning it, and it was just a really powerful experience that came from a failure in planning for a lesson.
Okay, Rachel?
All of the above. No, it's I have had a lot of experiences failing in my classroom the last couple of years, but just trying to do things differently. Like the biggest one was getting away from the rows in my classroom. And before my students came in, I just decided one day, 2 Septembers ago, I can't take standing in the front of the room talking at them the whole time. And I had a problem with student engagement for a couple of months before that. And I was trying all these different things and nothing was working. I was reaching out into Voxer groups on EduMatch. I'm like, what is the problem? And so one day I just thought, you know, I'm going to make the room into little groups and see what happens. And there were times like with the students, like I would just say like, look, I have no idea if this is going to work. Okay, we're going to try it. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, like, we're going to figure out why. And even last week, I made up an activity probably like 5-6 minutes before they came in. It came up. I'm like, oh, I should try this. And when they came in, I'm like, oh, we're going to do this activity. And they were like looking at me like, oh, we've never done that before. I went, yeah, I just made it up. Like right before you came in, I said, just give me a minute. I'm finishing it right now. And fingers crossed. But like they loved it. They're like, we need to do this more. I'm like, okay. And I was debating like, should I or should I not do this? So it's a good model for them because so often whenever I ask them questions, you know, like they don't want to answer. They'll say, I don't know. I'm going to get it wrong. Pass. And I'll say, you know what? I had a question asked of me in law school that the professor waited for 3 hours. So I've got all day to sit and wait. Like that's not like you have to try. I said, if you're wrong, who cares? So I make mistakes all the time. Just because I'm in the front of the room doesn't mean I know everything. That is so not true. It's just, you know, you have experience. So I think it's a good example to set for our students to show like, it's okay. Put yourself out there. And then it's what do you do after that? Like, do you give up or do you just kind of like rethink things, talk to people, and then try a different way? And actually, what has not worked for me sometimes has worked great for other people. So telling somebody like, you should hear what happened to me, and people try it and they're like, oh, it was great. And you're like, all right, totally wasn't great for me. But just sharing those stories too, it kind of helps you feel like, yeah, this is kind of like a normal thing.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's really nice. And then we have Amy.
Hey, so I kind of want to piggyback, like every single person that shared, like the common thing that I saw out of that risk was innovation. And I think that's really great that we're doing that. Sometimes as teachers, especially the ones that are still in the classroom, like we get told who, what, where, when, why to teach. And we don't really often get asked our opinion. It really frustrates me when they bring in outside consultants that never met my kids to say, this is what you're going to do. Like, and you didn't even ask me if I had a solution to the problem. So I like the fact that all of you saw something, and even if it was a complete disaster, like the beauty of that is you're going to learn how to fix it. Like we find problems and we get solutions. We are all highly educated. But with me, with my lesson plans, I work, like I said earlier, I work in an alternative school. So I do work with a marginalized population of kids. And I am very passionate about teaching them about modern day Black history, especially for this month. We just did a lesson on our whole unit on Sandra Bland. And some of the conversations could get a little dicey. We watched some of her YouTube or her Facebook lives, and I thought they were appropriate to show in school, but I do know that the area I teach in, if things were to go home or a staff member were to hear something, and am I rebel rousing? Am I causing problems? I don't think, no, I want to be brave for my kids. So sometimes the content, I need to just say, you know what, I'm teaching things that's grade appropriate. I'm teaching things that are current, that my brown and Black children need to know about. They need to know what's going on right now. We don't need to spend the whole month on Harriet and Martin. Like we need to be learning about some other things. But it can be scary. And I was nervous. I thought, oh my gosh, if somebody comes in here and sees me teaching this, or sees that the big packet that I made for them says Black Lives Matter on the front, like, am I going to get pulled in the office? Is someone going to say something to me that I'm causing like a riot in school? And the kids really liked it, and they were really engaged, and they did like the fact that like they were learning about current things that were going on. But nonetheless, I was a little anxious this week.
Those are all really great. Those are all really great. And thank you guys for contributing. I mean, when we look at those risk taking, we have question 5 coming up, which leads us right into the please share resources about taking those risks in education. They can be anything from filling out a purchase order and waiting for your materials to come in, to having to go out on your own and purchase it, and to keep with that pacing instruction in your lesson. So what are some of those resources besides like just taking in your next door neighbor for confidence building?
I'll hop in here.
Okay.
Okay, so I love video as resources, and one of my favorite videos centered around risk taking is this little kid named Audrey, and he's creating a Rube Goldberg machine. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and just Google Audrey Rube Goldberg machine. But what I love about this is that you see Audrey just trying over and over and over again, and he's failing constantly and not giving up. And then once he, you know, gets his success, I mean, he is celebrating. He is so pumped up and trying again. And at the end, he's saying, you know, like, I had all of these failures and then I had this success, you know, and that's what learning is all about. And part of life is that risk taking. It's part of the adventure of it all. And so another resource I'm going to throw out there is, once again, on Flipgrid. It's very easy to just create a topic. Maybe you call it Fail Forward Fridays, or just something where students actually sit down and reflect on maybe what didn't go so well this week, and what are you going to do, you know, next time to do better, or maybe share, you know, a success, but what they had to go through to get that success. I think the more that kids communicate that and also see other students sharing the same, the more that we'll understand that this is just a part of life and a part of the process. And it's a beautiful thing as well. And instead of being fearful of what someone else will think based upon your passions, and just like Amy was sharing, I was so into Amy's story, you know, that fear of someone else, what is someone else going to think? I think the more we do this, kids are not going to go to that point where I'm so afraid of what somebody else will think, but be more so, I'm doing this because I know this is right, and this is my passion, and they'll continue, you know, that great work without that fear. So yeah, definitely that video, and then also just, you know, embedding it into the curriculum.
Oh, that's great, and thank you. And if you could, please type the video into the notes, because that's something I know I would love to show and learn more about. So thank you. Anybody else? Resources?
Yeah, I'll hop on. I don't know if anyone has played around in the various Facebook groups that are targeted to educators. I strongly urge you, just do a search. There's some of them that have thousands of people in it. And the thing about taking risks is, what I see a lot of people say is, hey, I'm thinking about trying this, you know, project-based assessment, or I'm thinking about doing an escape room, or I'm thinking about doing a web quest, like I'm adding STEM. Like, they're throwing out these ideas, and they're kind of getting it from people who are going to give an honest opinion, because I don't know those people, and we all want better for kids. So I do see people like really giving some honest feedback. They're sharing links. I mean, it just really becomes this collaborative conversation about things, and we kind of boost each other up. We're boosting up fellow educators to try to go out and try things, and then it's kind of cool when they come back and maybe post some student work or a video, or say, hey, I tried that lesson plan today, it really worked out awesome. So and I feel like you can kind of get, like I said, you get honest feedback. But if you're with a coworker, they might say, oh yeah, it sounds like a great job. They really don't want to hear what's going on in your class. But like, people who are in those groups, like, they enjoy that. They enjoy that mentorship. I'm one of them. Like, I love when I see people have questions. I want to hop on and help. And here's lesson plans. Here's a Google Doc. Here's get into my Google Drive. Have whatever you need. Because I mean, we just want to help, and it's a great space that you can hop into.
Yeah, and I love how you talked about that, like sharing and coming in. Have any of you tried the Observe Me Now? No.
Yeah, Observe Me and Pineapple Charts. I work with a group of coaches in various capacities as their mentor, and I did it as a coach within the schools, and it's amazing to see when you do have that support of other educators and sharing that, maybe that one thing that you're very proud of, and inviting other people in and receiving feedback on that. And it just creates a really nice community, you know, a great practice, and then also innovation. Once again, you know, you walk into someone else's classroom, you don't have to really do it exactly like they did. You know, put your own spin to it, you know, make it your own, meet the needs of your kids. And so, yes, that protocol and practice is definitely helpful.
Yeah, one of the funny things I had happen with resources is teaching in the English second language learner, we were using dominoes, and kind of for how our selection and process was going. And sure enough, when math department needed some dominoes, they knew who to come to. So it's part of that building collaboration and sharing, and I love that part, yeah. Anybody else with the resources? Nobody? Sarah, is it okay if we go to the next question?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. All right, could you post that up for my chat? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I think that we were off. Question 5, I think, was the last one. However, you did have the spicy challenge. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So super excited to share that. So I'm just kind of scrolling through the timeline here on Twitter. So the spicy challenge for this week is to post a picture taking a risk of something new you designed and attempted. So people can earn a badge with that spicy challenge. So that is awesome. So so thank you so much, Kat. And is there anything else that you wanted to say before we close out?
Oh, thank you guys. Just thank you for being patient with me coming on late. And I look forward to seeing your pictures. I do have some swag. So if you post them, you can direct message me and I'll make sure I mail that swag out ASAP for you.
Sweet. We love swag. So that is awesome. So thank you so much, Kat. And thank you so much, ladies. So Amy, Desiree, Janae, Rochelle, thank you all so much. Wanted to thank Marvia, who is in the YouTube Live with us, as well as everyone tweeting with us. So I can't name everybody because there were quite a few people on Twitter. So thank you for everyone who was watching, everyone who will watch in the future as we premiere it on Facebook Live, or people who will be listening to our podcast in a few weeks. So definitely wanted to just thank you again, Kat, for bringing this great topic. And just wanted to remind everyone that this Tuesday, we're going to have a special episode, 7 p.m. Eastern, using unrolled picture books for shared reading. And this will be moderated by Dave Middlebrook. So definitely tune in 7 p.m. podcast with an s.edumatch.org/tweet talk. Also, shout out to Brent Coley. His pre-order for his book, Stories of Edu Influence, is available now on Amazon. So definitely check that out. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your evening and enjoy your day off tomorrow. So, all right, bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank y'all.